Today we're going to be using equations to solve problems involving quantity and value. So to warm up, we've got a couple of questions. The first one says, if a jar contains 50 nickels and dimes, we're going to denote, it says X, but that doesn't make sense to me. I'm going to use the number D. If we denote D to represent the number of dimes, what is an expression that represents the number of nickels in the jar? So we're looking for the number of nickels. I'm going to call that N. So let's see what they told us. It told us that we have 50 nickels and dimes. So 50 is going to equal the number of nickels plus the number of dimes. But what did they ask for? They asked us to find an expression that represents the number of nickels, which is basically saying solve for N. So if I asked you to solve for N, you could do it. You take D to the other side. So the number of nickels is going to be 50, the total number of coins, take away the number of dimes. I hope that makes sense. So for the second question, if a total of 15 people go to the movies and we denote X as the number of females going, again, I'm going to switch that to an F. What is an expression that represents the number of males going? So the number of males plus the number of females equals 15. We're assuming there's just males and females, but it asked us to find an expression that represents the number of males, telling us to solve for M. So an expression for the number of males would be 15 take away the number of females, or 15 minus F. So with that in mind, we're going to get into some money questions, doing stuff with the value of coins. A jar contains $18.50 in dimes and quarters. There are 110 coins in the jar. Find the number of quarters in the jar. So it's asking us to find the number of quarters in the jar. So we're going to start with our let statement. Let X be the number of quarters. And I could have used Q, but we're going back to using X's. So X is going to be the number of quarters. We need an expression now for the number of dimes. So for the number of dimes, it gave us a clue. It said there are 110 coins in the jar. So if I have X quarters, that means my number of dimes is going to be 110 take away the number of quarters, and that's going to be the number of dimes that are left. So, and we can turn it into an official let statement. So X is the number of quarters, 110 minus X is the number of dimes. Whenever I do any of these questions that deal with money and values, I make a table. So I'm going to make a table, and it's going to have quarters. It's going to have dimes, and it's going to have a total amount. And then I'm going to look at the number of them, or the quantity. I'm going to look at the value of them, how much they're worth on a single one, and then the total for all the quarters that we have. Another thing I like to do is, you can do stuff in decimals or you can do things in dollars. I like to do stuff in decimals, so I know that my total value is going to be 1850. So we'll leave that for a bit. But the quarters, the value of a quarter is 25 cents or 0.25. You can put the 0 if you want. Value of a dime is 10 cents or 0.10. And we already wrote down the number of quarters is going to be X. The number of dimes is going to be 110 minus X. And then if I'm going to look at the total number of quarters, so I'm going to try and fill in right here. So to fill in right there, if I had 5 quarters, you could tell me how much it was worth. It'd be 5 times 25 cents or $1.25. But if I have X quarters, I'm going to multiply them. So I'm going to multiply the number of coins times the value of each coin to get the total value of the coins. So this would be 0.25x, which just comes from 0.25 times x. And then similarly for the total value of the dimes, it's going to be, oh, I don't know what happened there. It's going to be 0.10 times the number of dimes I have. And that, if we wanted to work it out, would be, and of course I don't have a calculator handy. Sorry, just grabbing one. That would be 110 times 0.1 is 11. Oh, yeah, I'm just tired. 11 minus 0.10x. Total number of coins, we knew that that was 110. Value we don't worry about, but the overall total value, they gave it to us up in the question. They told us that it was 1850. And we're going to use this column to figure out our equation that we solve. We're going to write down the total value of the quarters, 0.25x, plus the total value of the dimes, 11 minus 0.10x, and that's going to equal the total overall value of all those coins. So we're going to have to do some math. We're going to get 0.15x, because I combined this and this. I'm going to take the 11 over to the other side and subtract it. 1850 take away 11. So 1850 take away 11, because I'm tired, 7.5. So I get 0.15x equals 7.5. Divide both sides by 0.15. And I get x equals 50. And if I go back to what the question asked, it said find the number of quarters in the jar. X was the number of quarters, so I've done that. We found the number of quarters in the jar. So I can write my therefore statement. Therefore, there are 50 quarters in the jar. And we could easily figure out the number of dimes by just subtracting it from 110. So that's the first question. If it didn't make sense to you, pause, go back, read through it again, do it yourself on a piece of paper, and follow along. Second question. Tickets to the concert cost $9 for adults, $6.50 for students. A total of 950 people paid $7,675 to attend. How many students attended the concert? So same thing as before. Let x be, they asked us how many students, so we'll make that x. Let x be the number of students. And the next let is going to be the number of adults. So I see that there's a total of 950 people. So assuming it's just adults and students, the number of, if I've already used up x out of the 950 on students, that means it's going to be 950 take away x is going to be the number of adults. And I'm going to make a table again. I'm going to have adults, I'm going to have students, I'm going to have the total, I'm going to have the number of them, I'm going to have the cost of the ticket cost, and then I'm going to have the total amount. And like before, the number of tickets times the ticket cost is going to equal my total amount. So let's fill in what we know. We know we're going to have x students. We're going to have 950 minus x adults. Ticket cost for adults, they told us, was $9. So it's going to be a 9 there. Ticket cost for students was $6.50. So $6.50. And the total I'm going to get by multiplying. So this one's easiest. X times $6.50 is going to be 6.50x, and you don't have to write the O. This one is going to be 9 bracket or times 950 take away x. And we'll just figure it out when we do the actual math. They told us that the total overall that was paid was 7675. 7675, my bad. And our formula is going to come from here. The total money in from the adults plus the total money in from the students is going to equal 76.75. So when we write that out, we get 950 minus x plus 6.5x equals 7675. And because I wrote really big, I don't have enough room. I'll come up here. So 9 times 950 is 8550 minus 9x plus 6.5x equals 7675. So squished, I apologize. I'm going to leave the x's on this side. So 9 take away 6.5 is 2.5. So I'm going to have minus 2.5x equals 7675. I'm going to bring that 850 over to the other side, and it'll be a minus 8550. 7675 minus 8550 is 875. So minus 2.5x equals 875. Divide both sides. Oh, that was negative because the 8550 is bigger. So minus 875 divided by minus 2.5. And we get that x equals 350. And remember, we let x be the number of students. And we've solved for x, so we are done. How many students attended the concert? Therefore, 350 students attended the concert. So again, if you had trouble following that, pause right now, go back, do the table yourself, follow along. Otherwise, send me an email.